Hello guys, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to have Doom movement, and just to showcase it here, what I can do, I can actually walk pretty quickly, I can double jump, like this, I can also dash, and I have a dash meter that fills and empties, and I can't dash unless I have at least 50%, meaning I have two different dashes. So you can jump, dash, double jump, dash, dash, however you'd like, shoot while doing all of it. And even if you notice that yellow box there, that's if I can grapple. So now if I look at this and press Q, it allows me to grapple. And that also has a cooldown as well. I can only use it whenever that box turns back on orange. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead into our sample project section here, go to games, and I'm going to choose a first person template, and I'm just going to name mine, I don't know, something like movement project. You can name it whatever you'd like, or ideally you'd be incorporating this into a game that you have already started working on. I like to have some of my starter content off, however if you like different building blocks the game has created for you to use, I would just go ahead and say yes to that one, but I'm going to go ahead and create this for myself here. Alright, my game just finished loading, and the first thing that you'll notice is when you first play, your character doesn't start with the gun. Now if I remember correctly, the older versions of Unreal Engine, your character would start with a gun in the first person template. But now they have it set to where you run around and you have to actually pick up the pickup to be able to grab and shoot the gun. But we're going to go ahead and change that because in Doom, you normally start with at least one weapon. You can pick up new ones. So we'll go ahead and do that, and it's actually pretty easy. Go ahead and go into your content drawer and go to First Person Blueprints. And I need you to open the First Person Character Blueprint, and we will have this open for most of the tutorial. Go back to your content drawer. I'm in full screen mode, so it does two content drawers for whatever reason, but I can work around that. Now what we need to do is open our pickup rifle. When inside your pickup rifle, you'll notice here on the right, add BP weapon component. Go ahead and click on this and copy it, Control C. Go back to your character, and then we're going to find the event begin play. I don't see one in the first person, so right click and type event begin play. Now we're going to go ahead and do Control V to paste it and connect these two. You don't need to add anything else because quite literally all this is doing is it's using the function created inside here that adds it to the character. And we'll even work with the other code as well. So now what we do is we hit compile and save. I'm going to go ahead and move these windows over and attach them to the actual one here because if we click play, it won't do anything, at least for me in full screen mode. So now I'm going to go back to my first person map. Hit play, and you'll see we do start with a gun, and if we try to pick up the other one, it won't do anything because it's still implemented with the other code that it can't pick up a weapon if we are already registered having one. So that's a really easy fix. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is go to the first person character, make sure you're in the viewport here, not in the event graph. We're going to change some values around that'll make it easier for us. All we're going to do is click on the first person character here, self, go to the details panel, and we're going to search max jump. Immediately you're going to see max jump count. We're just going to turn that to 2. Go ahead and compile and save. And now whenever we play, you'll notice that we can actually jump twice. That is it. That is how you do double jump. It is shockingly easy when I discovered this. It's insane. Now back in the first person character, we're actually going to increase how fast you jump. So all we're going to do in the same search panel in the BP underscore first person character self, we're going to search jump Z, and we should find jump Z velocity. So go ahead and click this here, and I found 600 to be a good value. If it does this after typing 600, it says 6.0, hit compile and save, and it'll compile it already for you to 600. So now whenever we hit play, our character jumps much higher, and then you can already kind of see the Doom movement. Now we're going to do the same, but with the max walk speed. So do max walk, and we're going to change the max walk speed to 700. Let's type 700, compile and save. And now what's going to happen is we're going to be moving a little bit faster, and on top of that we can double jump. So like I said, you can already kind of see that Doom movement showing through. Now in the same search panel again, we're going to type use sep, and we see use separation breaking. Make sure this is disabled. It'll throw you around real weird whenever we enable the dash. I noticed in the third person template it likes to have this enabled, so if you're doing third person, make sure this is disabled. It should already be disabled in the first person template though, so just make sure this is disabled, do not enable it. Now in the same window again, we're going to type falling lateral friction. We're going to change this to 5. It's just going to change kind of how our character falls and how much friction they have with the ground when they fall. It makes it look a lot better with the dashing again, like I said. So compile and save. Now that is it for changing values, so we can go ahead and close out that search. And we're going to go to the event graph, and we're actually going to start implementing that dash. So find some open space here. Now what you're going to do is go ahead and right click, and you're going to find a key on the keyboard that you would like to press for a dash. For me, I want to do X, so I'll say key X. And I'm going to go and scroll through here until I find keyboard event X right here. Go ahead and click that. Now we have whenever we press X, we're going to go ahead and have a branch here. And all we're going to do is we're just going to check if it's greater than or equal to 50. Remember, you can only dash if you have at least 50 stamina. So what we're going to do is we also need to create a variable to count our stamina. So go ahead and click the plus here under variables. And I'm going to name mine dash %. And you can name this whatever you like. Just make sure you keep track of it. Then we're going to change the variable type to a float. Now we're going to do exactly what I said. Our default value though, however, we're going to change to 100. And then we're going to go ahead and drag this out here and say get dash. We're going to drag it out, and we're going to type greater than or equal to. Change this value down here to 50, so checking if we have at least 50 stamina. Plug it in. I like to move it like this under here for organization purposes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add another branch. And we need another value. We need to check if the player is dashing. So under the variables here, we're going to type player dashing. And then we're going to change this to a Boolean. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and put it under the condition here. Compile and save. Now if it is false, we're going to go ahead and start the dash. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag out player dashing, say set. We're going to go ahead and plug this in and set it to true. Now after the player is registered as dashing under this Boolean, we're going to actually launch the character. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag out here, and we're going to type the same exact thing. We're going to type launched character. This is just throwing our character forward a certain value. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this launch velocity pin, and we're going to split the structure pin by right-clicking on it and then choosing split structure pin. Our target here, however, we're going to do get player character. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and right click and say get velocity. We're going to drag this out here and choose multiply. Go ahead and rearrange this a little bit, make it all neat. We're going to change this value here to a float single precision. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change it to a value like 10. This here is the strength at which we are throwing the character. I found 10 to be a good value, but you can play with it as much as you'd like. So now what we're going to do is we're going to split the structure pin here as well. So right click on this pin, and then we're going to choose split structure pin. Now we're going to connect in the X and the Y because we are not throwing the character upward, only forward and to the side. Go ahead and plug those in and hit compile and save. Now whenever you play the game, when you're running forward and pressing X, you should be able to dash. However, you can only do it once right now because we have not finished up the other code. Now after we launch the player, we actually need to remove some stamina. So we're going to go ahead and get set for the dash here. Move this over a little bit, give it some space. Now we're going to grab the dash, get, subtract. Sorry if I'm moving a little quick here. We're going to make it the number of 50 because the default value is 100, so 100%, and we're removing 50%, so it takes 2 dashes. However, if you'd like, you can also make it 25% and just change a little bit of the future code. It's completely up to you. I like being able to do 2 dashes before a cooldown. Now we're just going to drag in and connect this pin up here. I'm going to move everything to the side a little bit here to give it more room, and compile and save. Now we're going to go ahead and add a delay, so you can hold D on your keyboard and left click. Drag this into here, and we're actually going to leave it at 0.2 here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to set the player dashing to false and connect it up here. What this is doing is just making sure that you can't spam the dash button. So you have to wait 0.2 seconds before you can dash again. Now we have our dashing set, and you should be able to dash twice. However, you can't dash anymore, and that's when we need to add our regeneration. This is some pretty easy code. All we're going to do is find some room up here, right click and do custom event, and it'll pull up a custom event for you to name. I'm going to name this regen dash. Now off of regen dash, we're going to add a branch, so just hold B and left click, connect that up here. Now what we're going to do is get our dash percent here, drag it out, do get. We're going to get equals. So what we're going to do is we're going to check if our dash is equal to 100%. So is the dash completely full? And connect it up to here. We don't want to regen the dash if it's completely full. That doesn't make sense because you don't have any more to fill it up. So off of the false here, making sure that it's not at 100%, we're going to go ahead and do set and connect it up here. And we're going to set the dash every second how much we want to add to it. So I'm going to do get here for the dash, drag it out and do plus. Then we're going to connect it up to here to the set dash. And I'm going to organize it a little bit, compile and save. This value right here, you might want to add a little comment here. This is the regen amount right here. So basically, this little 0 right here is how much it will regen every second. Personally, I liked 5. It adds a little bit more fast-pacedness to it. However, you can change it however much you would like. If you want to know how to add a comment, you just hold C and then it'll pop up here and you can name it. And then I just drag the border to make it a single word. Now that we have that set up, we need to actually call the event we just made every single time we need to regenerate it. So here, back at the end of our other code, off of here, we're going to do retriggerable delay. We're going to make the duration 0.1 seconds. And then we're going to call regen dash. Now all we're going to do is loop it back to itself. So we're going to drag off of here onto retriggerable delay. And then we're going to double click to make a little reroute node here. It's fine if it reroutes the wrong area, just drag it up and make another one. And then we're just going to complete the little loop here. You can go ahead and connect these back up. Make another pin, just make the loop all neat looking. Also a little tip, if you drag over 2 different nodes and press Q, it'll level them out. So like for example, if this one's uneven, hold them out, Q. Pretty nice little tip because organization looks really nice. So compile and save. Now I'd also note here with another comment, this is the regen speed. This 0.1 here, it's going to regen every 0.1 seconds. So all we're going to do, I'm going to leave that at 0.1. Now when we press play, we should be able to dash twice. And then after a little bit, we can continue to dash, but noticeably your stamina will drain out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a UI so we can actually track how much stamina we have. Go ahead and open your content drawer here. And we're going to right click on some empty space. We're going to go to user interface. Then we're going to go to widget blueprint. Click on it and we're going to choose user widget. Now we're just going to name it WB for widget blueprint. It's just for organization to put the initials of the component before the actual name. Then do underscore, and we're going to name it dash and grapple. Go ahead and open it up. Now in here, we're going to go ahead and design our UI. So up on the top left here, we're going to search canvas for a canvas panel. Drag it in. The canvas panel just holds everything in its place. So this is the screen size here, and it's just going to hold everything within. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and type in progress for a progress bar. Drag it in down here. All it's doing is tracking how full our stamina is. So we're going to move it somewhere nice. I'm going to move it about right here. Then over here on the top right at the name, I'm going to name it PB underscore dash stamina and make sure that the is variable is checked here. Under the fill color and opacity, you can actually change the color of the slider. However, I'm just going to leave it. It's completely up to you how you would like to transform it, but there's a lot of different ways you can change it around here, and I highly recommend watching a video on customizing it. Now we're going to actually anchor our point to the corner so that it kind of holds it in its place. Up on the top right, you'll see anchors with the slider selected. We're going to click on that and choose bottom left. And we're just going to leave that there. Compile and save. Now what we're going to do, we're going to click on our progress bar here, make sure it's selected. We're going to go down here to percent right here. This is the slider that chooses how full it is with percentage. Now on the right here we have bind. We're going to click that and choose create binding. This will take us to the event graph. So just go ahead and make some room here. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to bind it to that value of the %. So go ahead and unplug this. You can do that by holding Control and dragging off of it and letting go. Now we're going to drag off of here and say cast to BP_first person character. If you're using the third person template, it'll be BP_third person character. Now we need a reference point. So off of the object here, we're just going to say get player character. The player character is the easiest character of all time to cast to. You just have to do that. Now we're going to plug this straight into the return node here. Now what we're going to do is do as BP_first person character. We're going to drag off. We're going to say get dash right here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drag off of here and we're going to type divide. And we're going to divide by 100 just to change from percent form to standard that the percent graph can read. So we're going to go ahead and plug it into the return value here, compile and save. Now we're going to go back to our first person character here. And we're going to go ahead and find that event begin play that we called earlier, which would be right here. We're going to drag off of the add weapon component, say create widget. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find the name of the widget here. So in my case, it's WB_grapple dash, or dash and grapple, I mean. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag off of this return value. We're going to promote it to a variable, and we're going to call it dash and grapple widget. Now off of this node here, we're going to do add to viewport. Go ahead and organize this around, compile and save. And now when you play, you should have the dash completely working now. Go ahead and see how quick it fills up, how much it does every 0.1 seconds. And you'll see that you can only dash twice before it needs to fill up to do it another time. Alright, so that's actually the easy part done. Now we're going to be going to grappling, and that is the most complex part of this video. It's not completely necessary to add it. I had actually followed this tutorial here by Gorka Games to make the base code. However, I off-branched, so I highly encourage watching his video. Basically what I had changed is that I had gone in and used some of his code to get the actual line of the grapple. However, other than that, my code is pretty different. For example, my code, you have to tap Q to be able to shoot a grapple line, and then that grapple line stays active for 2 seconds before it eventually disappears. However, his, whenever you start grappling, it's until you let go that the hook disappears. So if that sounds like something that you would like, you can go ahead and use his method instead. However, if you'd like a line that stays for 2 seconds and then regenerates, you can go ahead and use my method. It's completely up to you. I still highly encourage subscribing to Gorka Games. I've been following his tutorials for ages and he helps me out a ton. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to organize a little bit here. So under here for regen amount, under regen dash, highlight the whole thing, press C to make a comment, and just call it dash regen. Now go back and do the same for all this code here and just call it player dash. And that just helps us kind of figure out where everything is in our event graph. If you want to take it another step, you can click on the comment here and there will be an option that says show bubble. Go ahead and check that, and that way whenever you're zoomed out you can see specifically where things are. I'm going to do that for both of them. Now to start off, we're going to find a key to press whenever you want to grapple. For example, I wanted to use Q, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is go ahead and find some space, right click and say Q key. And right here under keyboards events, we'll find Q. I'm going to go ahead and click that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add a new variable, and we're going to call it can grapple. And we're going to also check this under private and add it to the private category. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a branch, so hold B and left click. We're going to go ahead and connect it up. We're going to grab can grapple and plug that into the condition. So we're only going to grapple if we are allowed to. And just make sure as well, after compiling and saving, that the default value for can grapple is true, so at the beginning of the game they are allowed to grapple. Now compile and save as well. Now we're going to grab a good amount of room, so I'm going to go ahead and move this all over here. Now under true, we're going to drag off pretty far over here and say line trace by channel. What you can do is also select the branch here and press Q to make sure they're even. Now we're going to start this line trace, and we're going to do it off of the camera. So go ahead and grab the first person camera here. We're going to get the world location, as well as we're going to get the world rotation. Now off of the get world rotation, we're going to do get forward vector. And then we're going to do a multiply off of that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to right click this bottom pin here and do to float single precision. And now we need to choose a distance of which the line trace can shoot. I'm going to start with 3000. However, you can tweak later and change the value to however far they are allowed to swing. After that point, they aren't allowed to shoot a line there anymore, and we'll cancel out the swing. Now off of this, we're going to drag and add. We're going to plug this into the bottom one. You can hold Control and click to move it. Get world location, drag it into here. I'm going to level it out, and now we actually have our endpoint. What it's doing is it's getting the player's rotation in the forward vector of the player and shooting a line out of the camera straight forward and adding it to their location as well, and that actually gives us the endpoint. And you can change this value however you'd like. Simply enough, the start point is just the character's world location. That's that complete, so I'm going to go ahead and move this around and make some space here. Compile and save. What we're going to do, under draw debug type, we're going to change it to for duration and compile and save. And now when you play your game, you can actually test how far you want to be able to shoot your line by pressing Q. You'll see that you'll be able to grapple by pressing Q at this location. The red dot is where you're going to start your grapple. And you can go ahead and tweak and see how far you want to be allowed to grapple. For example, I'm not hitting a square there, so I can't grapple at that location. But I think that's probably a little too far for me to grapple, to be honest, so I would probably turn that down to about 2000. After line trace by channel, we're going to add a branch here, connect it up, add the return value of the branch, to make sure that we're actually hitting something before we do our other code. Now after the out hit, which is the data of what we just hit, we're going to do break hit results right here. Go ahead and hit this arrow to drop it down for more options. We're going to go ahead and grab the impact point, drag it out, and do promote to variable right here. And we're just going to change its name to grapple point. Go ahead and set this to private and change the category to private as well. And compile and save and connect it up to true here. You can also close this window here to save some room. Now what we need to do is we need to create a variable saying that the player is actively grappling right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a new variable. It'll be of type Boolean. We're going to name it is grappling. We're going to make sure by default it's false. We're going to, in the category, make it private, and then also set it as private. Compile and save. And then we're going to go ahead and set it to true here after the grapple point. Now after that, we need to go ahead and drag off of here and say set movement mode off of the character movement. I'm going to go ahead and drag this character movement node under here and move this to be level. We're going to name it to flying. Because if you had it as walking or falling, your character can't move upward in the Z-axis. Flying is the only way you can. Now what we need to do is we need to actually go in and we're going to set up the grappling hook that's going to come off the player. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the viewport. Then right here off of the first person camera, we're going to go ahead and click add here, and then we're going to type cable. I'm going to go ahead and name it grapple rope and just leave it here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to guess the general position of where the end of the character's gun would be. So I'm going to move it around. I'm going to say probably about right here is where the character's gun will be. You can copy these values here on the location if you'd like. And then under here, under cable segments, we're going to change that to 1. Now go ahead and compile and save. And then under the search here, we need to go to visibility. We're going to go ahead and change it to false by default. Compile and save. Now back in the event graph, we're going to go ahead off of this, and we're going to drag and say set visibility, and it'll be off of the grapple rope right here. The new visibility is going to be true. Now go ahead and find some more room for some more code, and we're going to right click in some empty space, and we're going to say event tick. What we're going to be doing now is that event ticks are an event that checks every second to see if something has changed. So what we're going to do is we're going to check at what point our character is supposed to be flying to every second. So go ahead off of the event tick and add a branch. Now what the condition needs to be for the branch is the isGrappling boolean that we made before, and connect it to the condition. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get actor transform, and we're also going to grab our grapple point here and do get. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drag off of here and say inverse transform location. This is just making sure that we're pointing the correct direction whenever we go to our grapple point. So go ahead and connect your return value to the T here. And then what we're going to do is grab our grapple rope here, drag off of here, and do end location. We're going to do set end location, connect it up to true, and we're going to plug it in to our return value. Now what we're going to do is we can set it that our character can't grapple until the current grapple is completed. So we're going to set our grapple to false, or can grapple, I mean. Now this is where we're actually going to add force to the character to move them across the map. So off of set, we're going to drag a nice bit of space here. We're going to do add force, and it's going to be up under the character movement here. I'm going to go ahead and organize this and move it under here. Now what we need to do, let's make some room over here. We're going to get our actor location. We're going to do get unit direction. I'm going to organize this. And then we're going to plug in our grapple point here. Add this. Now back under the get actor location, we're going to grab our get actor right vector. We are as well going to grab our get mouse wheel axis. We're going to multiply it with the wheel axis here. We're going to multiply again. We're going to right click on this pin and change it to a float single precision. We're going to go ahead and change this to a value like 0.7. And then we're going to connect this up to the add here. Now after this add, we're going to normalize. And after the normalize here, we're going to do a multiply. This value here is the force that's going to be implemented itself, so how quickly your character is going to shoot there. So you're going to want to choose a really, really big value. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to a float single precision, and I'm going to change it to 250,000 like in the video he had showed. And I'm going to go ahead and connect it up to force here. Compile and save. Now after add force here, we're going to go ahead and add a delay. I'm going to change it to 1 second. This value here is going to be how long the grapple lasts. So I'm going to add a comment here, and I'm going to say grapple time. You should probably do the same just for organization reasons. Grapple time. So for me, I liked 1 second. Now what we're going to do is we're going to set can grapple to true. And we're going to set is grappling to false. Now after about 1 second of grappling, you'll be able to grapple again. Now when you play, you'll go ahead and see that when you press Q, it'll shoot to that point, spawn the grapple, and pull your character there. As you can see, it's not exactly aligned with our gun, however you can tweak it as much as you like, but now you'll see our character is stuck in a state of flight and their grapple is at a weird position here. Now after this boolean, we're going to go ahead and do set movement mode. Based off the character's movement. We're actually going to go ahead and set this to falling. Now after that, we're going to grab our grapple rope. Going to do set visibility. We're going to change it to false again. File and save. And now that issue should be fixed. Now I'll grapple for 1 second, grapple will end, and I'll fall, and I'll be able to do this again. Double jump, grapple, dash while grappling, whatever. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up that UI that says if our grapple is ready or not. So go ahead and go into your widget blueprint again. Go into your viewport here, and what you're going to do is go under common here, and you're going to choose a border. Go ahead and drag out this border and put it under the canvas panel here. And we're going to go ahead and move it down here. I'm going to have it under this progress bar here. And I'm going to shape it to be a box. Get a little bit bigger. I'm going to go ahead and name this B_grapple ready and check it as a variable here. Compile and save. Now we're going to go into our event graph. Now we're going to go over here. Make sure you're not inside of your get-stamina%. Make sure you're in your event graph. Go ahead and delete all this here. We don't need any of it. We're going to go ahead and type event construct. We're also going to do custom event. I'm going to name this grapple icon ready. And move it over here. Now what we need to do is grab our grapple ready symbol and do set brush color and plug it in here. And then we're also going to set up the same color whenever the icon is constructed as well. Go ahead and click on here and choose a color that would work best for you. I liked orange, so I'm going to drag it right about here. I'm going to press OK. Now we need to also set it to a color whenever you're not going to be able to use your grapple. So go ahead and right click here and do custom event. We're going to go ahead and name it grapple disabled. Go ahead and copy and paste the same code here of the grapple ready and set brush color. I'm going to open it up, set it all the way to black, and set the alpha here to 0.8. However, you can mess around with that as much as you'd like. Hit OK there, and compile and save. Now go ahead back to your first person character. Now we're going to go ahead and grab our dash and grapple widget here. Get, and we're going to do grapple icon ready. Connect it all up. All this is doing is at the end, when we're notified as falling and our grapple icon is completed, it's going to go ahead and notify our widget blueprint here that change it to this color, notifying that it is ready to be used again. Go ahead and copy your dash and grapple widget here. We're going to move over to our other side of the blueprint, to zoom out and go over to where this code is, where you press Q. And at the end here, you'll see set visibility. Paste it here, and then we're going to call grapple disabled. File and save. Now you can go left over here and change your draw debug type for your line trace to none. Compile and save that, and that's the end of this tutorial. Now what you have here is faster movement speed. You can double jump. You can also dash with a stamina meter. And on top of that, whenever you press Q or whatever key you'd like, you can grapple from your gun. And as you can see, that little box there on the bottom also enables if we're allowed to use it or not. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comments. We all like to help each other out. And also, if you have any questions about future videos, or if you recommend one that I could create, just leave one in the comments as well. This video is actually recommended by this commenter here, and I greatly appreciate it. I had a lot of fun making this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.